KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all.
That's right. It's KP's Video News, y'all. Yes, indeed. Yeah, man. You know, I always try to find some things that I can relate to, and but you know, this time around, I'm just gonna do some nationwide. I'm gonna do some nationwide news. Some of these stories that are breaking stories, and I'm gonna go that route today. I'll go that route today with some breaking stories here. And the first story I have is like you had two men that were convicted in a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Whitmer. So this happened in Grand Rapids, Michigan. A jury today convicted two men of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020, delivering swift verdicts in a plot that was broken up by the FBI and described as a rallying cry for the U.S. Civil War by anti-government extremists. So sidebar here, first of all, you know, this is one thing that really upset me about this whole situation, man, because you had somebody that was in office, man, Donald Trump, that was so stupid he didn't realize that these so-called militia people and all these people that were rallying behind him, their whole objective is to overthrow the government, not work with the government. And he you know, when they turn out and they come out to these little rallies and stuff, they realize that they finally found somebody that was dumb enough to go along with their program, and all they had to do was pat him on the butt and say what a good guy he was, and then he'd be standing there all giddy like a you know 12-year-old girl, and they took advantage of his clown ass. Anyway, back to the story. The result was a big victory for the U.S. Justice Department. A different jury just 4 months ago couldn't reach a unanimous decision on Adam Fox and Barry Croft Jr., but acquitted two other men, a stunning conclusion that led to a second trial. Fox and Croft were convicted of 2 counts of conspiracy related to the kidnapping scheme and attempts to obtain weapons of mass destruction. Prosecutors said they wanted to blow up a bridge to disrupt police if the abduction couldn't be pulled off at Whitmer's home. And Croft, 46, a trucker from Bear, Delaware, was also convicted of another explosives charge. The jury deliberated for roughly 8 hours over 2 days. Today's verdicts prove that violence and threats have no place in our politics, and those who seek to divide us will be held accountable. They will not succeed, said Whitmer, a Democrat who turned 51 years old today. But we must also take a hard look at the status of our politics, she added. Plots against public officials and threats to the FBI and law enforcement are a disturbing extension of radicalized domestic terrorism that festers in our nation, threatening the very foundation of our republic. Fox and Croft will face sentences up to life in prison. So they just stared at the jury as the verdicts were read, and defense attorney Christopher Gibbons shook his head while another defense lawyer, Joshua Blanchard, removed his glasses. Jurors declined to speak to reporters outside the courthouse. We were hoping for a different outcome, Gibbons said. During closing arguments Monday, a prosecutor had a blunt message. No one can strap on an AR-15 in body armor and snatch a governor. You know, so, you know, so one guy said, but that wasn't the defendant's ultimate goal. Assistant U.S. Attorney Niels Kessler said they wanted to set off a second American Civil War, a second American Revolution, something that they called the Boogaloo. And they wanted to do it for a long time before they settled on Governor Whitmer. That's what I'm saying about Trump. They've been working on this Ever since they came out with that book called the Turner Diaries, they've been thinking about trying to overthrow the government. And all these people, man, that are sitting by, jumping on this idiotic bandwagon, don't even understand that that's what they're doing. So the FBI turned it into a major domestic terrorism case, and with 2 more informants and 2 undercover agents embedded in the group. Evidence showed the group had many gripes, particularly over COVID-19 restrictions imposed by Whitmer early in the pandemic. Foxcroft and others, accompanied by the government operatives, traveled to northern Michigan to see Whitmer's vacation home at night and a bridge that could be destroyed. Ty Garvin and Caleb Franks, too, were on that ride. They pleaded guilty and testified for the prosecution. Whitmer was not physically harmed, and 6 men were arrested hours away from her home on October 2020. David Porter, who leads the FBI in Western Michigan, held the verdicts. Here in America, if you disagree with your government, you have options. You vote. What you cannot do is plan or commit acts of violence, he said, outside the courthouse. And defense attorneys tried to put the FBI on trial, repeatedly emphasizing through cross-examination of witnesses and during closing arguments that federal players were present at every crucial event and had entrapped the men. Fox and Croft said they were big talkers who liked to smoke marijuana and were guilty of nothing but exercising their right to say vile things about Whitmer and the government. Oh well. Anyway, law enforcement officials across the country have been warning about an increase in threats and potential violence against agents, buildings, and law enforcement. So, hey, and then you got, like I said, you got that DC dunce over there fanning the flames, man, every day. You know he's going down, but he just will not, denounce the nonsense. Instead of denouncing the nonsense, he's trying to fan the nonsense. So, all right, here's another one. Here's another case here. Got Stephen Alford sentenced over $25 million Gates family extortion attempt. So a Florida real estate developer, Stephen Alford, has been sentenced to just over 5 years in federal prison for trying to extort $25 million from Don Gates, the former state Florida president and father of the Sunshine State's District Congressional Matt Gaetz. Alford, 62 years old, of Fort Walton Beach, was arrested August 2021 and charged with wire fraud and attempting to prevent seizure of an electronic device. He pleaded guilty to a single count of wire fraud on November 22nd, 2021. Alford faces 63 months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release, and the sentence followed a Monday afternoon hearing that comes after District Court Judge Casey Rogers ruled last week that the Justice Department incorrectly attempted to set guidelines for sentencing for stealing $25 million, stealing rather than attempting to steal $25 million. Okay. Alford had been sentenced for stealing $25 million. He would have faced a minimum of 15 years if he would have actually got the money, but he didn't actually get the money. Alford admitted to working in a scheme involving correspondence between himself, his business partner, and Don Gates. Alford told Don Gates that if he gave him $25 million to help free Robert Levinson, a former FBI agent who was held hostage in Iran, arrangements could be made for Democratic President Joe Biden to pardon Matt Gaetz in a federal sex trafficking investigation the Republican faces. The Trump administration told Levinson's family last year that U.S. intelligence believed Levinson died in captivity. Alford claimed to have access to the president and would be able to pardon Matt Gaetz, despite charges including having sex with a 17-year-old girl and paying her to cross state lines. Matt Gaetz unsuccessfully sought a pardon from Donald Trump before he left office January 2021. Oh boy, these guys are something else, man. These guys are something else, and they out there doing all kind of madness, all kind of foolishness and madness, and they think they can just do it and just run and go get a pardon. All right, here's another guy that's, right here. Dennis Rodman says he got permission to go to Russia to help Brittany Griner. So the White House had responded. Dennis Rodman was known as one of the most dominant and eccentric personalities on the basketball court during his 14 seasons in the NBA. However, in recent years, he's actually become somewhat of a diplomat who attempted to smooth over international issues on several occasions. Most recently, Rodman revealed that he got permission to go to Russia to make an appeal for the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner, but the White House has since responded, and it doesn't seem to be thrilled with the basketball veteran's plans. It was this past weekend that the former Chicago Bull announced his intention to travel to Russia to defend Griner, who was recently sentenced to 9 years in prison after pleading guilty to drug charges. Dennis Rodman didn't get into many specifics in regard to his plan, but the Hall of Famer seemed determined to make the trip. Something that the famed sports personality failed to clarify is who gave him the alleged permission. One thing that seems clear, though, is that it didn't come from the White House. And a spokesperson for the Biden administration issued a statement on the matter, and the White House would prefer that the retired athlete stay out of the proceedings. And as you know, Mercury Phoenix WNBA player Brittany Griner was arrested on drug charges back in February and has been detained at a Russian airport. Griner was preparing to return to the States after playing a season with Russia's UMMC basketball team, when she was discovered to have vape cartridges with less than a gram of hash oil in her possession. After being detained for months, Griner's trial commenced on July 1st, and she eventually pled guilty. And she received a 9-year sentence on August 4th and has since filed an appeal. So the government is saying at present Dennis Rodman has yet to respond to the White House's statement, and it's honestly hard to say whether Rodman will heed the Biden administration to sit out this international incident. So we'll see what old Rodman is going to do. No, he's been buddy with the guys over there in North Korea. Yep. Yeah, so I'm telling you, man. Anyway, they got a new Zulu king in South Africa, and wow, South Africans, they coronated a new king, and thousands of traditionally dressed Zulu warriors and maidens descended upon the royal palace and to celebrate the traditional coronation of the newly crowned King Mzula Ka Swelithini on Saturday. Wow, they got a new Zulu king over in South Africa, man. Yeah, trying to find a longer story here about that, but it seems as though I'm having a little problem. Let me see if I can bring that up. Let me see if I can bring up some more information about that right quick. About the new Zulu king. Yep. Who was the new Zulu king? Let me see if I can bring up a story here. Bear with me, folks. Okay. So Prince Mzulu Zulu is the new Zulu king, and the current Zulu king has been identified, said on Friday night. However, events at the royal palace where the Queen Manfobi's will was read out, rapidly devoured in the chaos. Wow. So the Queen, who was buried on Friday, had been appointed Oh, this is an old story. This is an old story. Bear with me here. That was an older story. I want to see about the new Zulu King. New Zulu King. That was an old story there. The Queen, that was from back in 2021. Okay. Though the throne has no formal political power, the king is extremely influential figure in South African society. After the death of King Goodwill Bexulu in March 2021, there have been disputes over who should inherit the throne. Two other sons have argued that they have the claim to the position. The late King Goodwill has 6 wives and several sons. Wow. So the king's firstborn son, who was formally recognized by South Africa's president as the new Zulu king. The traditional coronation ceremony took place this past weekend. During the ceremony, a ritual called the Ukangena Asabayina, where the king enters the royal cattle enclosure, took place, and the sacred cattle crawled to involve his ancestors. He was announced as the new king. South African journalists shared a video of the moment he emerged from the sacred place. And dancing and singing took place during the ceremony, along with demonstrations by Zulu warriors who pledged their allegiance. Some spectators wore garments printed with the image of the new king. And I know that you are aware of the state of the royal family in recent times, and I request that whatever you hear in the media and the comments made by those disputing the throne, you should hear them out, but you should also not listen to them, Mazulu said in a speech to the gathered crowd. Today, the Zulu nation starts a new chapter, he continued, and I promise that I will work to unite the Zulu nation. All right. Yeah, the Zulu king over in South Africa, man. So I'm going to save that story right there. Yep, I'm going to save that story. And I'm going to follow up on that one. Yep, got anointed the Zulu king. Don't fool around with the Zulu king, y'all. That's right, folks. It's KP's Video News. And you know who it is.
KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video
You know who it
News,
is.
y'all.